Hey guys, Bryant with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana with another episode where we welcome Coach Pixley in. My good friend here in Baton Rouge, my basketball friend Savant, the friend and the accomplice that I've spent 2.5 decades arguing and sometimes agreeing with regarding the sport of basketball and the men that run up and down the hardwood. 2.5 decades. Coach Pixley, Jonathan, welcome back, my friend. I am very excited. Our last video was very well received. Everybody agreed with me. They did not agree with anything you had on your top 30 list. I don't know if you read the comments. No, I'm just kidding. What's up?
I didn't read it, but because I still don't know how to work social media. But nonetheless, it's our list was similar outside of a couple spots.
Very
so they had to have agreed.
It was.
I'm excited about this one, though. This is a cool idea right here that we have coming up.
These lists, I have a feeling, because these lists are, I guess there's more wiggle room on this list if you take liberties with the rules and the parameters, and we're going to go through the criteria of our list. Today's list is about the top 10 closers. I was going to call it finishers, but that might, evoke Vince Carter and Daryl Dawkins and guys that dunk the ball, Blake Griffin. So I don't want to put the title as finishers. Let's just say closers, okay? And so today's list is going to be interesting, and I think it'll be a little more contentious or a little bit more subject to debate, and I think it's going to be a great topic. Let me get you over, as always, I've got this incredibly rudimentary Excel spreadsheet, which we'll work from today. Hopefully okay, good. So I've got my honorable mention up there. The first thing that I want to state is that we're talking about the top 10 closers of a game. This is a situation. We're coming out of a timeout. The team is tied and or they're down 1 point, and you need an MFer to give the ball to and say, win this game. Whether it's with a dunk, a 2, a 3, get fouled and make your free throws, or make the right decision, getting a teammate an open shot and winning the game. That would probably be the last on the list of potential ways to win a game, but we'll talk through that. The one thing I do want to make sure that we're clear on is we're going to talk about and I'm going to talk a little bit about clutch field goal percentage, and it's not going to be apples and apples. It's a little apples and oranges, because I've got up on our screen here the way that the NBA defines clutch minutes or clutch time, right? And they define it as the last 5 minutes of a game with a potential point differential of 5 or less. That's a humongous ocean, right? We're talking about a small pond. We're talking about 23 seconds left in the game. Your team is tied or down 1. Who you giving the ball to? Is that clear? I mean, I think we're on the same page. I just wanted the viewers to know we're not talking about who do you want in the fourth quarter. We're talking about the one possession to make everything happen.
Okay. And that is exactly what we discussed, but we need to add the key detail to this that you're leaving out, which is the lives of your loved ones are on the line.
I forgot about that.
And in fact, you know what? I think we need to add the lives of
family pets.
Of everyone on the line. It's kind of like Bill Simmons' book, if aliens attacked,
if aliens attacked, right.
What would your lineup be?
Yeah.
Who would you put the ball in the hands of to save the planet with one shot?
It's very dark. But I'm down with it because I like my list. And it'll be a great conversation. You're going to
get destroyed already if this is how you're starting. I see already.
Okay, so unlike our top 30 under the age of 30 in the NBA, franchise players or would-be franchise players where you didn't give a damn about the honorable mention, suddenly now you're going to care about honorable mention because I've got some guys in my honorable mention that I'm quite certain you're going to have in your top 10. So we should have some really good conversation pieces. Let's get going. I'm going to start cranking through my honorable mention. We don't get to see your list, which means you could probably change it behind my back just to make it look more like mine to be more accepted.
Oh, I definitely don't want it to look like this one. Like that. No, sorry.
So it begins. Yeah. All right, Rick Barry. I've got Rick Barry on here. I'm not really old enough. He was mean as shit from what I heard. One of the meanest people that anybody ever played with. He was sort of the white Kobe from the 70s. Apparently his teammates hated him, but he drug a team to a championship, probably one of the biggest upsets in NBA history as far as titles go. I just don't know enough about the guy. I didn't get to see the guy play enough. Obviously, the one thing you learn as a kid is the dude shot free throws underhanded, and he made all of them. But he was apparently a one-man team on that title team, similar to Dirk, who had a bunch of over-the-hill all-stars on his team, but no other real all-stars. What do you know about Rick Barry? Does he belong even on the honorable mention? And I'm assuming he's not in your top 10.
He's not. And I have no idea if he made shots. I mean, I'm sure he did at some point, made shots in the scenario that we're talking about, nor do I know if Sam Jones did. I mean, these guys. So, yeah, that's kind of – I mean, I know a lot about the players and their statistics, but I don't know about that scenario because we didn't watch film of those guys.
Well, they didn't have it for a lot of them, right? So that's a big problem.
Yeah, right. It wasn't on TV. You had to
go back. And look, before, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of 85 to 95-year-old men and women that watch this channel from what I've heard. I've run the demographics on YouTube. So a lot of octogenarians, a couple of 100-year-old plus people that watch the channel. I don't want to offend them. We're not going to go back in time too far. Rick Barry and Sam Jones are probably the only pre-merger guys that you're going to see on here because we kind of stuck to ultra-modern and kind of the modern post-merger people and even really almost post-90s people because that's what we've seen with our own eyes, and that's when games were no longer either not recorded or were not tape delayed, right? This is when live basketball began, so we're kind of pulling more from that era. So there will be a little bit of recency bias. Yeah. But, I don't want to offend any of our older viewers, of course.
The guy that I'd lump in with them that I have on my honorable mention is John Havlicek because apparently he was super, super clutch. But again, that's only based on what I've heard. So I don't have any film to look at.
Yeah. And I've got Sam Jones on here because you and I were talking about him the other day. Yeah. Sam Jones is the answer to this question. Whenever you're in an argument with people and they're talking about rings, your answer can be, well, Sam Jones has, correct me if I'm wrong, 9 rings. He has 10. All 10. Okay, so 10. Sam Jones has 10 rings, and he was the leading scorer on those Celtics teams.
Yes.
And he averaged 27 in Game 7s, and no one mentions him on Rushmore like they do Bill Russell. So that is your response. If you're one of the stat lovers like me, one of those super uber selfish people who cares more about putting up numbers than actually winning rings and gives more credence to those types of things, like I'm the Wilt over Bill Russell guy, Sam Jones is obviously a great cog in your argument. You can always throw Sam Jones out there and say, well, why does nobody give a damn about Sam Jones? He's got 10 rings. Is that right? You ever use Sam Jones in your argument, or you're a Wilt over Russell guy, right?
I am, just because he was better. But no, I didn't. I don't even mention Sam Jones, although, I'm sure. Look, obviously he was a great player, but can we move on? What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and knock out the other old fella, Jerry West, who is obviously the logo. His nickname was Mr. Clutch, which is, I don't know. It seems kind of ironic because he lost the more finals than almost anybody, didn't he? You're going to know the numbers better than me, but he lost all but one?
He was 1-8.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall. He went to 9. He lost 8. Yeah.
Okay. And he's like this LeBron situation that we're dealing with where Jordan's 6 for 6. Yeah, but LeBron went to 9 or 10 in a row. Jerry West was even in a more exaggerated version of the LeBron situation where he never could get over the hurdle, and he finally got the one with that great Laker team that set the all-time wins record, former all-time wins record. Yeah. He hit the big 63-footer in the 70 finals, and they actually lost that game. I think that sent it into overtime. They lost the game in overtime. I don't know if that's where he got the Mr. Clutch or if it was from losing 8 finals, but his nickname is Mr. Clutch, and now his nickname's the logo. And now he's just really a really grumpy old dude, but he does know a good bit about basketball. So,
he's called Mr. Clutch for a reason. And again, these are things that we hear. Apparently, dude made a gajillion game winners before they kept track of game winners. So we don't have those stats like we do for the guys now. Like, I don't count a 63-footer as clutch. I mean, it's
yeah.
But if you're making shots that you're creating and things like that, which apparently he did, then he belongs somewhere in the discussion for sure.
Yeah, and that's what this is about, right? It's about consistency. It's about having giant nuggets. We know what this is about. We made the criteria very clear, right? Who do you want to have the ball with 23 seconds left in a tie game or you're down 1? I've got Kawhi Leonard on my honorable mention. 37.7% clutch field goal percentage. Again, using the NBA's definition of clutch, so it's a little skewed. He beat Steph. He beat LeBron. 2 best players of that generation. He beat them both. He's won 2 titles with 2 different teams, and a lot of people think he's got a chance to win a third with a third team. I don't, but some people do. And then, of course, the Sixers shot, which was a dagger and just destroyed. It just really ended that franchise as they knew it at that time, as it was constructed, and it might have ruined Ben Simmons. That might have had something to do with Ben Simmons.
Yeah. He also, and I didn't realize this, he has made a ton of game winners in his life. I didn't know you know about the one against Philly, but he's got a YouTube video about five and a half minutes worth of game winners. Just doesn't. I guess he's always hurt, so you don't think about it. But so he definitely belongs in the discussion.
Just imagine if he played in like 70% of his games, how many more game winners he'd have. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
So he's not in your top 10. Easy. The claw's not in there.
Oh no. Well, let's get to my top 10 when we get to yours. What we'll do is we'll go through this honorable mention, and then I'll list people who are. I'll list my honorable mention after that, and then we'll go.
Let's go. Okay. Magic Johnson, the hook. Obviously, we remember that, right? Running across. He, emulated the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the captain, with that hook shot. The it factor, he had it, right? When he walked in a room, everybody knew it. Not that factors in, but he had that deal where he wasn't the greatest shooter in the world. He wasn't the greatest at creating space facing his defender, but he had a history of doing some really good things late in games. And so I've got him on my honorable mention. He would probably be closer to the top, to the top 10 in my honorable mention, and maybe the closest half for my honorable mention. Playing center for Kareem was nuts. He's not a knockdown shooter, so he's not a guy that I would personally trust from 19 feet, to consistently knock that down. He did it throughout his career, but most of his game winners, I don't recall them being step backs or anything. Not that anybody really shot step backs, but he was also an 85% free throw shooter, which matters for my clutch guy. For my top 10, that free throw percentage, I'm not going to say they're all great free throw percentage shooters, but it did matter, and oftentimes it was a tiebreaker for me. Did you take free throw percentage into account?
I certainly did. In fact, it directly affected one spot that I have in my top 10, flipping two guys. But you'll see that when we get to it. But Magic was on my honorable mention as well. And a key thing that I feel like you made it clear, but you got to keep in mind with 23 seconds left, you'll have some guys, sure, that their skill is getting themselves open for a catch and shoot or a one bounce shot, right? Whereas other guys, they just put the ball in their hands at half court and they go play, or you throw it to them on an ISO on the wing and they go play, or the mid post or whatever. Can you get your shot off? That is a huge component of this. And I think Magic, like you said, that wasn't his forte for sure.
Right.
But he's still an honorable mention, like you said.
Yep. And you also got to remember, depending on the situation, I'm not going to get too technical about pick and rolls and switching pick and rolls and exploiting mismatches, because in the last 23 seconds, you don't always have that luxury to set up mismatches. Teams don't always go that route, and coaches coming out of timeouts, the defensive coach is game planning as well. It's not just the offensive coach drawing up a play. So there's ways to kind of countermeasure what happens during, the middle of a regular season game as opposed to the last 23 seconds. All right. We did Jerry West. Ray Allen, I've got him on my clutch list because he just has to be mentioned. A lot of people don't remember young Ray Allen, especially if you're in your early 30s or late 20s. You see old man Ray Allen, who was a catch and shoot, and a very good catch and shoot, and one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time. But young Ray Allen was a monster. He had fantastic calves. I dreamed about his calves. I wish I had them. He hit, obviously, the huge shot that saved LeBron's ass and Dwayne Wade and Bosh and those guys down in Miami on that step back where he tiptoed and knocked down one of the biggest shots in Miami Heat, well, probably the biggest shot in Miami Heat history. Had a great, better than most clutch field goal percentage on a lot of attempts. Again, that's in the last 5 minutes of a game within 5 points. That's it. That's all I got on him. He's not in the top 10. He's not even really close. He's probably at the tail end of my honorable mention just because of one big shot and the fact that he was just a hell of a shooter. So I wouldn't mind him having the ball. But late in his career, he couldn't create anything on his own.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that was a thing. But you got to remember back. He's another guy who, when I went back and did a little research, had a lot more game winners than I remembered.
Yeah.
He did. So, and one of the greatest shooters of all time. So I think, to me, he falls in that category of, yes, he could get his own early on, but still wasn't in the same, category as some of these other guys in that area, but was great at getting himself open, late. So, and you got to keep in mind, when the ball leaves somebody's hands, who do you feel most comfortable? Yeah. Right. That's the thing. So
because your kids and your family pets, remember? Exactly. We forgot. That's part of the hypothetical. We keep leaving out the fact that our kids' lives are online.
It's a big deal.
And I don't want to put him in Robert Horry's hands, no matter what, because I don't know if he's been drinking before the game or smoking. We don't know what Robert Horry was doing. But again, I've got him on the list because people are going to flame our ass if we don't talk about Big Shot Bob.
You have to. He's an honorable mention for sure. Got to be.
Yeah, he's an honorable mention. He played 9 Game 7s. He shot 50% in 8 of 9 Game 7s and made numerous big shots. Most people remember the one that bounced out miraculously to the top of the key. An interesting fact, I have a brother-in-law named Robert Horry. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
That alone probably would have got him on the honorable mention. All right, let's keep going. Kyrie Irving, I've got him on here just because as far as shot creation goes, despite the fact he's a munchkin, man, there's not very many people that I would choose over him in like a 1 or 2 bounce limit one-on-one game, right? He is a problem as far as having handles, as far as actually being able to be a knockdown shooter, and then just from a skill standpoint, he's one of the most skilled perimeter players that I've ever played the game of basketball. Leaving out the craziness and leaving out the earth is flat and leaving out the whatever, getting shots and not playing and all that crap. Just when the time's there, he's a guy. Is he in your top 10? I thought he might be.
Close. Really close. And here's probably the only reason he wasn't is because I would be worried about you can't leave the craziness out. You can't do my kids' lives matter to him? No. Do his own loved ones' lives matter enough? That's what really matters. Maybe not that day. You don't know. But as far as being able to create space as a small guy, probably never seen anybody better. Maybe not. Iverson close, but not nearly as good a shooter as Kyrie.
Iverson couldn't hold a candle to him from a shooting standpoint. Right.
But yeah, he was definitely on my honorable mention, but close to my top.
And honest, I'll even go a step further. And now we're seeing John Morant do some things as well. And they're similar size. Maybe the greatest finisher at the rim for a small – he's the best under the rim finisher for his size I've ever seen, and that includes Iverson. That's just my opinion. I've never seen more people make evasive layups against bigs than Kyrie Irving. Now, John Morant will go put it on you. Kyrie Irving's not doing that, but great finisher under the rim. And, of course, he hit, once again, somebody else hit one of the biggest shots in LeBron James's career. Damian Lillard, Dame, my guy, Dame time. His nickname is basically what we're talking about. It's Dame time. If that's your nickname, you must be doing something right. He's taken a good but not great franchise to the playoffs numerous times. He's made huge buckets. He's just cold-blooded, dude. I don't know what other word there is to describe him. The dude's cold-blooded. He's got the most go-ahead buckets in the final minute, and this is a stat here. The most go-ahead buckets in the final minute since 2012 with 33 of them.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's an important statistic. And I think he waved the OKC Thunder off the court. And like I said, whenever you know you're going to do it and you're tapping your wrist because your nickname is named after what you just did, you're special. Thoughts?
Yeah. And can get his own, right?
All that.
Kyrie. So to me, if Kyrie doesn't have that Game 7 shot, Dame is ahead of him in this list and still might be ahead of him in this list, just volume. So he also
consistency is Dame. What could be if Kyrie was level-headed and played all the time is the reason he's right there, right? Dame's not in your top 10.
No, but he was close to. He was right there with Kyrie,
Don't tell me who, but how many of the honorable mention I just named are in your top 10? 2?
3, 4.
What? 4. Really?
Yeah.
Well, man, we're going to have – well, then that means I've got 4 people in my top 10 that you're going to say WTF. And then we'll get
I haven't given you my honorable mention yet. So, I'm giving you some of them, but I'll call them out to you after you're done. Okay. Oh, wait, we're done. Damian Lillard. Yeah, let me go ahead. I'll call mine out. So I had Dame. I had Steph in my honorable mention, which just because he's the greatest shooter ever, I still think he struggles to create the space necessary, right, in that situation. But it was tough for me to leave him out of the top 10. It really was.
It's tough considering how he just finished the season.
I know, and that was
got a lot of people up, man.
Again, we're not talking about closing a game. We're talking about the last possession.
Your kids, though, dude. Your kids.
Yeah, that's a change, man. It's such people don't realize that is a huge dynamic change if it's just one possession, right?
Yeah.
I have CP3 on my list because I think back to OKC whenever he was able to get to that mid-range when whenever he wanted to, right?
Even New Orleans as well.
This is, again, honorable mention.
Yeah.
Had Havlicek. I had Dwayne Wade, who was in my original list of top 10, but I bumped him out. That was tough for me. It really was, because he kind of defines that end of the situation where I go get a shot off. I had Bernard King.
Okay.
People forget about him, right? But when you talk about an ISO guy who could just go get a bucket whenever he wanted to, he was the definition of that for about 3-4 year run. I refuse to put him on the list, and I just want to make sure everybody knows that I'm refusing to put Paul Pierce.
I knew it. I knew you were going to do this.
I won't do it, okay?
I was scared.
He made a bunch of big shots, and I don't want him anywhere on the list.
I understand. Listen to me. I don't have him in my honorable mention because I was worried you would get so flustered and upset you would just disappear and I'd be doing the show by myself. So I didn't even put Paul Pierce in my honorable mention list, although he deserved it.
And my last guy in my honorable mention list, which was not mentioned, and he's often forgotten about, is Andrew Toney. Played with the Sixers, could go get it when he was the Celtics killer. Everybody, I mean, they were scared to death of him. So that would be my honorable mention list. A lot of the same guys you got for sure, but I got some guys in the top 10. So let's go ahead and move on to the 10. Okay.
Number 10 on my list is Mehmet Okur. No, I'm just kidding. It's hang on, let's do the great reveal. Tim Duncan. I don't know if Timmy D made it in your top 10. I didn't hear him in your honorable mention, so there is a possibility that we're going to have a serious argument here. His free throw percentage really worries me. But when I think about Tim Duncan, I think about one of the best back to the basket post players of all time. Hey, I'm not going to be able to get through this if you're making faces and pouting like that. Just gather your thoughts and relax. I've got a 42% clutch field goal percentage on 117, which is not a small sample size. He's 3 times finals MVP. He's got a devastating face-up or back-to-the-basket game. And you're sitting there, you're bitching right now, but you're remembering old, stiff, straight-legged Tim Duncan.
No.
I need him higher?
I'm not.
What are you doing?
I'm not. I am trying to figure out how he's going to run 23 seconds off a shot clock and get the last shot.
He's not. That said, that was something that we need to consider. I'm not going to give it to him at half court. You don't think Tim Duncan can get open in the post with like 8 seconds left? I mean, he's the greatest power forward that's ever played. He's got Tony Parker to throw it to him.
How many game winners have you ever seen Tim Duncan make?
I'm not this YouTube clickbait guy that's just going to go look up a bunch of selected clips of game winners.
I'm just asking, how many have you ever seen him make? How many do you remember him making? This is the last possession of the game for the lives of your children.
Yeah. And he played for freaking Popovich. So Popovich was probably drawing up motion and requiring 10 passes in the last 23 seconds.
Then what's your documented evidence that he belongs on this list?
He's the greatest power forward that ever lived. And he had a devastating offensive post game, mid post or deep post.
Okay. So then why isn't Wilt on your list?
Because Wilt can't shoot free throws.
Neither could Tim Duncan. I mean, he's better than Wilt, but
anyhow,
move on.
Tim Duncan's on my list. Tim Duncan deserves to be on the list.
So just let's put it in perspective for all the listeners out there and viewers. You have Kobe Bryant on your honorable mention. I know, look, I am 100% with you. He is overrated when it comes to that. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have him honorable mention. You have Kawhi Leonard honorable mention, and you have Tim Duncan, who you can't name a game-winning shot he ever made. You can't name one.
Yeah, well, I'm 48 and I've forgotten a lot. I've got him because his clutch field goal percentage is almost the same as Kobe's career field goal percentage. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I've got him on there.
Okay, so number 10 on my list, just so we can go in conjunction.
That's fine.
I put Jerry West as number 10 because his name is Mr. Clutch, and that's really all I have to go.
You're giving me shit about putting Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward that ever lived, with 5 rings, five alpha rings, right? Yeah. Even though Kawhi did get an MVP, 5 alpha rings. You're giving me shit for putting him on the list, and you put Jerry West on the list, who could be our accountant for all we know, because we never got to see him play basketball just because his nickname is Mr. Clutch.
Did you put Karl Malone on the list because he's the all-time leading scorer, or was second all-time leading scorer right now?
No, because he never scored a point in the fourth quarter.
Oh, I was just making sure. I didn't know if that was since. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We can't take this long on number 10. Let's go. Let's move on to. You want to do my number 9?
I told you Jerry West was Mr. Clutch. That's it. That's the only reason I put him on there. Go.
Okay. Well, I'm going to respect your number 10, even though I think it's more preposterous than
You
mine.
should. His name's Mr. Clutch. It's not.
Comment below. What's more preposterous? Jerry West, who's never bench pressed in his life, getting the ball to save your kids' lives, or Tim Duncan? Comment below. We're moving on. We'll let the people decide.
You're asking them to. Yeah, sure. That's fine.
We'll let the people decide.
By the way, are we keeping in mind era? We have to, right? What they would do in that era, in that situation.
Oh, I don't know. It's too late to decide that now. We didn't
really do that. Got to do that.
Well, I mean, I'm giving Tim Duncan the ball over Jerry West in every era. In 3023, I'm giving Tim Duncan the ball. Okay. I got Dirk Nowitzki at number 9. Are we okay there? Can we agree on that?
I'm not agreeing on Dirk being number 9, but I'm agreeing.
I mean, can we agree on him being in the top 10? Is he in your top 10?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, then you're going to have him ranked higher than me because I didn't hear him in your honorable mention, and he was at number 10. I've got Dirk. He's also got a tremendous, obviously, clutch. He did it. He probably is the best example, maybe Rick Barry, but it was before my time. Maybe the best example of a one-man team. I don't want to say one-man team, but solo all-star, solo all-NBA player team that won a title with that Mavericks team and beat some of the best teams in the NBA that he definitely should not have beaten.
For sure.
His playoff points per game were 3.2 higher than his regular season points per game, and he's a knockdown from the free throw line, 88%, which is going to be a consistent theme for all of these guys. Not all, but most of these guys in the top 10. I've got Dirk, especially since he's got an undefensible shot, or I should say indefensible shot, unguardable shot, with the high knee step back. Even Dirk, my guy Giannis is trying to replicate that shot now. It's not working out well. It's hitting the front rim every single time, but he's got the form down, So I got Dirk on there with an indefensible shot. That won't be the last thing we hear about an indefensible shot, but Dirk's there with the high knee step back at number 9. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think that people forget that Dirk could actually go get his own with 1 or 2 bounces. He had to have it thrown to him, but then you weren't going to give it to him at half court, for example. But he could go get his own. So I'll get to him later.
Jonathan, you know what? It's really tough to. God, and I'm always the one that's pointing out recency bias, right? I'm always the one explaining to people, but you don't remember Young this, you don't remember Young that. Dirk is one where his later years were so painful to watch. He looked like he was in so much pain. It made me feel like I was in pain. He looked so brittle. It looked like Pinocchio, a 7-foot Pinocchio trying to play basketball. Yeah. But younger Dirk moved a little bit.
He was in more pain than Tim Duncan was later in his career.
Which was also painful.
Yeah, really bad.
Okay, who do you have?
He had a little bounce to him. He could get. Obviously, he shot the ball from behind his head, so he's 7'1", so he could get it off.
You get to it, man.
Right.
Yeah. Who do you have at number 9?
Number 9, I had LeBron James.
Okay.
On my list. Main reason is if you go back to your criteria earlier where you said last 5 minutes with the league. If that were the criteria, LeBron would have probably been 3 on my list.
Yeah.
But taking the last shot. Although obviously his second stint in Cleveland and moving forward, he's gotten much, much more comfortable in that role. I worry that he's always going to think, I got to make the right play. And if I'm saving the lives of my kids, not only do I need him to shoot it because that's what I promised my kids was going to happen. And number 2, I need him to make free throws potentially because they're probably going to foul him when he goes to the rim. And that's my other issue. So
and that is definitely a drawback to LeBron. But I think that's going to lead to a lot of disparity between the 2 lists because I'm talking about the best basketball decision. I'm talking about the ability, if you do get doubled, if they do run a double at you, the reason Kobe's not in my 10 is because Kobe doesn't give a shit. He's taking a terrible low percentage shot.
It's not what we discussed. We said that person had to shoot the ball. Nope.
No, we did. No. Oh, I'm changing.
To shoot the ball.
Well, that's going to be the answer to every single one of mine because I took into account making intelligent basketball decisions. That's the only reason. If you had to take it, like you just had to get a shot off, then give me freaking George Mirasan, man.
Well, then
it's about making a basketball decision.
If that's what it is, LeBron's number 3 on my list.
Okay. We'll put him at number 3 then.
That's not what we discussed.
But Jonathan, it's real basketball. We're asking, give this person the ball at the end of the game. If somebody runs a triple team at Dirk Nowitzki, he's not going to shoot it.
100%. But that's not what the criteria that we discussed were. It was this person's the person that you trust to make a shot at the end with 23 seconds left. To make a shot. If you look, honestly, you do that, that does change a lot.
Yeah.
In certain regards. So,
well,
look, and worst case scenario, go with your list like that, and then I'll go with my list as the last shot taker.
We're still going to talk about all of them. And really, this is, I mean, it's your fault 100%. I don't know how much clearer I could be, but we'll just, as far as everybody watching knows, you really screwed this up. But we'll keep talking about it. And you know what, people? Once again, on Cajun Cardboard and the Luka Nation Network, you're going to get double what you deserve. You're going to get two lists with totally different criteria. One list from my friend here about forcing shots up against triple teams, and then one list over here about making really good basketball decisions, which is what a coach of an NBA team would want his best player to do. So let's keep going through the list. Keep in mind that, in all fairness, keep in mind that we did have one serious distinction there. I don't know. Our hypotheticals are very different with that one tiny little caveat that you're allowed to pass on my list. I don't know how that got lost in translation, but that definitely would change my list as well because I would take Manute Bol on here. Here we go. I got Reggie Miller, number 8. This is tough for me. Yeah. You've obviously got him at least 8 or better because if you didn't have him at 8 or better, I am certainly guessing you'd have him in your honorable mention. I don't think you would totally ignore him.
He's on my list. He's on my top.
Yeah, he's on your list. I've got him 8 because I don't think even in his younger years he was that devastating off the bounce. I don't think he was big enough. I don't think he weighed 150 pounds to take anybody in the post really and exploit them. I think a lot of his game winners, as you know, the video should attest to, were from cheating and pushing off on people and, grabbing jerseys as he, swung around screens. Again, brilliant IQ. He gets it. He manipulated the rules. He did whatever he had to do. He wasn't nearly as clutch as people think, but my God, the ones he did hit were freaking huge, and they really mattered on really big stages. And he had a flair for the dramatic. 37.8%, not the greatest clutch percentage, but took a lot of those field goals because who in the hell else on Indiana in those years was going to take them? And if you want to be a hero, you got to take hero shots. That's his quote, which is an awesome all-time quote. It really is. Yeah. And that is pretty much what the name of your list should be. It should be called either the Kobe list, or if you want to be a hero, you have to take bad hero shots. Sorry, I added bad in there. 89% free throw percentage too. Keep that in mind. So could even draw a foul off the ball, which under the modern NBA rules would be, obviously a game winner and game clincher.
Yeah, he's on my list higher, and we'll get to that in a minute. But my deal is I took heavily into account who he played with. And so the fact that he literally was the only guy who was going to take that shot at the end of a game. Yes, he was limited in his creative ability. But the fact that, he just made so many memorable shots. You can't. And to me, if we're talking about the end of the game, which again, we were talking about that person actually shooting the ball, but somehow that got misconstrued. We're talking about playoff time, right? It's the biggest crunch time shot you can possibly imagine. Yeah. Because now you're trying to save the planet. And Reggie Miller, when it left his hands, probably just about as close to anybody. If he got it off, would I have believed that it was going in?
Yep. Well, you just saw it so many times, you just expected it to go in, and everybody held their breath when he shot it. The other thing with him, you talk about eras, and we talk about this all the time. Again, guys, remember, this is just our personal list, number one. And number two, there are so many myriad rabbit holes we could go down about the different play style. Reggie Miller today would be infinitely better than he was in that era, in my opinion, because he needed to eat a sandwich. He couldn't get away from anybody. He couldn't really absorb any contact. And now you can't touch anybody. Back then, you could molest anybody you wanted, especially off the ball. And so he was thriving in an era where it was very difficult for someone of his, shape and size to thrive. You agree with me? He would kill in today's game, huh?
He would have taken at least once a game. Would he have taken 3 free throws for getting fouled on a 3? At least once a game.
Wait, hell, he almost did it back then, and they never wanted to call fouls, and they didn't have the bullshit landing under people rule. What is it? Give them room rule. What's it called? Yeah. What's that rule called? I can't remember. Where you can't land under their feet.
Space. It's a space something rule. I can't remember what it's called. But
basically, it's the Zaza Pachulia took a title away from the Spurs rule is what it should be called.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
So 8 on my list was Kobe. I put him that high just because, again, kind of like Reggie Miller, he made so many memorable shots. But you and I are definitely on the same page with he was overrated in that regard, and he took a lot of shots on good teams that he didn't have to take at the end of games. That's why his percentages are low, because it was a hero ball thing for him. But at the same time, the difference between him and LeBron, while I think LeBron could get better shots off, the fact that most of those shots, as we know, are going to be mid-range jumpers to threes at the end of a game. Kobe was a better shooter in that regard, mid-range. I feel like LeBron's a better three-point shooter career-wise, and all better than maybe anybody to the rim. And then the free throws also. I mean, Kobe was what? 85%.
Kobe was knockdown free throw shooter. Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
This is what, Jonathan, and again, this is going to be polarizing, and we're going to get some heat. I mean, there's no way you can if you make a list like this and you don't have people bitching in the comments, then you didn't do a very good job of making your list, right? You're going to piss some people off, because all the guys that we're naming, if we list somebody fifth, it should be first, people are pissed. Yeah. If we list somebody first, it should be fifth, people are going to be pissed. And if we don't put people in honorable mention, they'll be pissed. So either way, people are going to be pissed. But this is how I perceive Kobe. He was going to take the shot no matter what, and he made his mind up rather than reading the game. And that's a problem. And that's a reason that I wrote this down up here, because this note really matters to me. He was .338, 33.8% in clutch minutes. Mm-hmm. Remember, that's the last 5 minutes of games within 5 points. That's 11% lower than his career field goal percentage. Yeah. When it mattered the most, he shot the worst by a lot, a whole lot. That's a problem to me. And I know perception has become reality, but it's not. Stats are reality. And Kobe just was not a great late game shooter. When you take enough, and we took 287 in that period, that's a pretty big sample size. Yeah. He took a hell of a lot more of shots in what are considered clutch minutes than anybody else on the list, as far as I know, right? I don't think anybody else took that many.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, he had to. I mean, because like you said, he took every one and everybody knew he was going to take it. So, anyhow, so that's where Kobe is. And look, the way I look at this is people who are watching this, they're going to bitch about the fact that he's number 8 on my list. What are they going to do on your list that honorable mention? But again, like, you got to really know what you're looking at when you're talking about this. You look at it heavily from a statistical standpoint, probably more heavily than I do. I do take the stats into account for sure, but I'm also looking, and this is going to sound crazy to those who I guess who overrate Kobe. Okay, and God rest his soul. All right, but I think he is potentially going to go down as one of the more overrated guys. He's a freaking top whatever player in the history of the world, no doubt about that.
10, 12?
10, 12, 15, 10, 12. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Which is an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah.
But people who are putting him in the top 5, top 3, I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? Yeah. And the problem I have is, and again, this is where it's going to sound crazy. If you're ever able to go back and watch, go back and watch old film of Kobe back in his prime, whenever he could get a shot whenever he wanted to, go back and watch MJ when he was in his prime, the degree of difficulty.
Agreed. I know where you're going.
Wasn't even close. It was so much harder because he couldn't create. He wasn't as athletic as Jordan was back then, and people don't realize that Jordan could create 5 feet of separation. Kobe made a bunch of incredibly tough shots, but he didn't create. And people will go, well, he was a better ball handler and he was a better three-point shooter. And he was this. Well, what about the fact that Jordan didn't need to dribble it between his legs?
Amen. And again,
other than embarrassing Larry Bird on that one move. And he didn't need to shoot threes because he could get a freaking 17-footer whenever he wanted to. So,
and again, we're comparing him to the greatest that ever did. And so I don't want anybody to think we're like Kobe's not a top 75, right? We're simply saying he's 8 to 12. He's not number 1, and he's not number 1 on this list for sure. In my opinion, he's obviously not on yours. He's number 8. Do me a favor. I want to show people the difference between career basketball players, myself and yourself. One never played defense, and this is what my pinky looks like. Please put your pinky back on the screen.
Oh yeah, you got to look.
Put it on the screen. Move it.
Please. like
there you go. That's why I didn't play defense, because I don't want mangled up, nasty ass looking old man, creepy bitch hands like that.
Look at that one too.
All of them. I don't want to see any more of that. Please do me a favor. Don't ever put your hands on the screen. I've already got an issue with subscribers dropping from your stupid list right here where you don't even know what the rules are. Let's go to number 7 on my list. I got Luka Doncic. I know it's early. I know the sample size is small, but damn, he's really off to the races when it comes to last-second shots and late-game heroics. 54.3% effective field goal percentage on 69 shots that have a top 1% potential to win probability. What did you say? Let me start over. He's shooting 54% from the guard position on 69 shots, which is a large sample size, that have a 1% potential to win probability, which means big ass important shots very late in games. That's essentially what we're talking about here. It may not be the last 23 seconds, but it's any shots that are deemed so important and so late in the game that it will alter the outcome of the game and win it 99% of the time, basically. 74% free throw shooter and not having enough years is what keeps him from being higher on my list. Did he make yours?
No, he didn't. And that's the only reason.
Just not enough time.
Yeah, he's going to be on my list at some point for sure.
Okay.
He's going to have to improve his free throw percentage to be top 5 of all time on that list. Yeah. He's got that gene, man. There's no doubt about it.
He has it, man. The shit that Magic had, he has it as well, but his game is very different than Magic.
Well, here's the thing. Here's how you know when a guy is great. It's when he's bouncing it. Here comes a left hand dribble, one bounce step back, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like left hand dribble, not even really for any reason. No. It's not like he's driving his defender back or trying to get his defender to react. Nope. Plant with the right foot into the craziest step back you've ever seen. And by the way, he doesn't shoot it from the back of his head quite to the extent as Dirk, but you ain't getting to that bitch. I can tell you that. It's way back there. Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, he'll happily hit the banners that the Mavericks don't have up in the rafters. So
yes.
Let's go on. Who's number 7 on your list?
So I had Ray Allen on my list. Because you talk about, everybody remembers the Miami Heat shot, which and one thing that is I think super underrated about that shot was how good his footwork had to be in order for that to get off, right? And that's why I take into account that, even late in his career, whenever he couldn't create as much, he still made a bunch of game-winning shots because he was able to get to a spot and didn't have to have any space when he received a kick out. Like he could still just and really did elevate,
crazy quick release.
Yes, and just again, I'm thinking. Again, I was thinking this person has to shoot it. So I want great shooters shooting these shots, and Ray Allen belongs on that list. So
even under my criteria, I agree. I'm with you. I want great free throw shooters and preferably great shooters. Tim Duncan, so far, is the only exception. Well, Doncic, as of yet, statistically, is not proven to be a great shooter. I have reason to believe that will change, and when that does, next level shit. Like that's where he becomes next level.
It's over
and transcendent. He's not there yet because he's not shot the ball well at all, especially from 3. But you see glimpses and you see games where he'll hit 6 out of 8. So it's there. Part of it is that the degree of difficulty is stupid. I mean, stupid degree of difficulty.
Right.
All right, let's go. Next on my list. This is number 6 on my list. It is Larry Bird from French Lick, Indiana. Was once at Indiana University and then did not like it and went home and then decided, I'm going to come back and be one of the 10 greatest basketball players that ever lived, and I'm going to be an Indiana State Sycamore. I think Sycamores, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Sycamore? Yes. 27, 9, and 7 in 8 game 7s. Pretty good numbers. The greatest shooter of the pre-pace and space generation. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. No question.
All things considered. Again, we don't know what Bird could shoot from 3-point range or how many he could get up if he played in today's era. Right. People act like Steph invented the 3-point shooter. He just had permission. Yeah. I don't think Bird ever hit more. I might be wrong, but I don't think he ever made more than a 3 a game in any season. But he was unquestionably the greatest 3-point shooter ever. I might be crazy on that.
I'm not sure he ever took more than 3 a game.
That's a great stat, by the way. Did Bird ever make more than 82 threes in a season? What is this crap? Good Lord. He did. I lied. 1 year he made 1.3 threes per game.
Yeah, but dude,
he did it twice. He did it a couple times. He averaged 0.7 a game. Steph makes
3.3. 3.3 was the most he ever took in a game, per game in a year. I mean, Steph does that in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Just for comparison's sake, we're going to pull up Steph Curry. And I could also pull up Malik Beasley, by the way, who I think led the NBA in threes taken, which is odd. Steph took 11.7 1 year. He took 12.7 another year.
There you go.
That's serious, right? That's just a whole different game in general. But I got Bird as my greatest, basically pre-spacing basketball, old school basketball, greatest shooter of all time back then. Plus he hated you. Plus he, scored 40 left-handed against Neek and those guys. Plus he was going to tell you where he was going to shoot it from. Yep. And then he would talk about your mom after and then spit on you and then, anything and everything. I mean, there are so many great Bird stories. We get to do this one time. We'll do a video. Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan in that order. And then I think next, story-wise, is Larry Bird. That's those three guys.
That's what I was fixing to say. First of all, I'm insulted that he's this low on the list.
I know.
But secondly, he, outside of Jordan, you're right about Wilt, but I'm talking about in our lifetime of watching. No other player has other star players tell the stories that they tell about Bird, other than Jordan, right? And that's when whenever Hall of Famers are talking about you like they're in awe of you, Magic Johnson talks about Bird like he's in awe. You don't hear people tell those stories about Magic like that. And that's what I'm going to remain. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with LeBron at the end of the day. Do people talk about him like that? Maybe they will. I don't know. We'll see.
I think they will. I would
imagine they would. Yeah. But he doesn't. I said I would imagine they would. But, I mean, dude, the stuff that Bird said to people before doing it, like, who does that? Especially when you can't jump or run,
at all. Right. Or comb your hair. So, a lot of people, those stories don't come out until after their career is over for a couple of reasons. People like to keep that close to the vest. So we'll see. We'll see how LeBron's remembered. In my experience, players are forgiven and more fondly remembered after they're done. And it's never fails. Like, very rarely is that not the case. O.J. Simpson is probably the only person I can think of, right? Everybody is always more fondly remembered after they're done, and all's forgiven. And then the recency bias kind of fades away from when they were old and brittle, right? I mean, even after Jordan retired from the Wizards, it was like, eh. And then now, I mean, obviously it's like, all hell breaking loose again because people actually realize what he was. So you got to get past that recency bias. I got Bird there. You're right. I'm like, well, who the hell do I have 1 through 5? I forgot. I'm like, why the hell is Bird number 6? So I might already have to use an eraser. All right, tell me who you got number 6.
My number 6 was Kawhi. I had him, and I think that just could get to he. To me, a huge component of this is, can you get to the spot that you want to get to, that everybody knows you're going to get to, and still get a shot, right? Yeah. And I'm not counting that one against Philly.
Ushers people to a spot.
Yes.
He ushers them there.
Yeah. And sneaky elevation. Much better mid-range shooter than people realize, shoots a much higher percentage than people realize, all those things. So, he would be number 6 on my list. Plus, a huge component of this for me is, I think the dude's a robot. He laughs like a robot. So at the end of the day, is he going to worry that he's trying to save the planet? No, he's a robot. So it's irrelevant. He's just going to make a shot because he's a robot.
That's his job. That's what he was programmed to do. He ushers people. And let me tell you why. I mean, he literally – it's almost like he could hook him with his left hand, dribble the ball there, and then drop him down and then say, I'm about to shoot it. Do your best and shoot it. He's 6'7", 225 on here. Yeah. I think he's 6'7", 235 probably, maybe 6'7", even a little bit thicker than that. I don't know. But I've never seen anybody dribble slower and move slower in the mid-range and more deliberately and not give a shit if your defender is there or not there. It's really interesting. Yeah. He plays an interesting game. Yeah. And when he gets cooking, he gets cooking. I didn't have him all the way in there just because I haven't seen him play in half a century. So
but again,
I just forgot about him.
If we take all that into account, you're right. But just
and I didn't. And you're right. I'm just saying, he this is assuming he's there, right? He's actually there and not load managing the last 30 seconds, which is possible. All right. So number 5 on my list. How are we doing on time? You okay on time?
I got about 20 minutes. We're good. Yeah.
Oh, we got to move. Okay. I got Steph Curry at number 5. I'm regretting Steph Curry in front of Bird, so I'm just gonna switch them. No, I'm switching them right now. I'm catching myself before you say anything about it.
Yeah.
His clutch percentages aren't great, and the reason I had him here is because I do think he's the greatest shooter of all time, including Larry Bird. I do think that Bird has the size advantage. Bird has the FU advantage. Bird has the he has the ability to post if you do put a small person on him, where Steph does not have that ability.
Right.
And I don't think Steph's forte is 2-point shooting or getting to the rim necessarily. And again, this is older Steph now, but 3-pointers are worth a lot. So if he does make a shot in the last 23 seconds, his is likely going to be a 3-pointer, not a 2 or a free throw. And so that factored into me. And I think he's one of the 10 greatest ball handlers of all time, not from a God, sham God, Kyrie Irving. Holy shit, what just happened? Yeah, I said 10 just to cover my ass, but maybe 5, you're right. As far as getting where you want to get, Chris Paul's in there. Again, not the sexiest ball handler, not and one handles, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
So for all those reasons, I had Steph 5. I think I still would put Bird 5 and Steph 6. So switch that one, just pretend.
Especially in your situation, because you're taking into account making the right play. Not that Steph wouldn't make the right play.
Easy for Bird to pass out of doubles and see everything. And he's
Bird's
top 5 passer of all time.
He's one of the most underrated passer of all time.
All time.
So, So in that situation, but nonetheless, my deal with not having Steph in the 10 was simply shot creation, last possession.
Yeah.
That's it. He definitely took steps forward, though, this postseason. That's for sure.
He did. He really did. It was huge for his resume. I know that sounds dumb that one 7-game series could mean so much, but even for people like us who do a good job of keeping the big picture in perspective, dude, you got to have a Finals MVP if you're going to be a top 10 player of all time. You just got to. And so he's there. He's in the conversation. He's probably in, but it's close.
Yeah, no doubt. I had Dirk here. Because again, all the stuff we talked about earlier. So I just feel like he's, again, a great shooter who can get shots that he's fixing to take and you can't do anything about it. So
Dirk's Bird light.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. He's JV Bird, and that's, again, we're splitting hairs here because he's an all-time great, probably a top 3 power forward of all time, top 5.
5 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You're with me. You're with Nowitzki slightly behind Bird because we haven't gotten to your Bird yet, which I knew. Which I knew. He's going to be right ahead of Kevin Porter Jr.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I got LeBron at 4. I know you don't like it. You're not going to like it, but remember my criteria.
Yeah,
this is the big. This was the biggest potential momentum swing as a result of our misunderstanding about what the criteria were, which is, for me, make the best basketball decision. For the beginning of his career, he was maligned and harassed about passing the ball out of situations because Kobe would have taken the shot and he would have shot 33.8%. LeBron passed those balls. His teammates did not make the shots. Jordan passed those balls twice, very famously, to 2 little white kids, and they both made the shots. Right. And he's got 2 rings because of it. So I've got LeBron here because I'm taking into fact he's also one of the 5 greatest passers that ever lived. He's also 6'9" and can see over everything. You can't double him in the middle of the floor ever under any circumstances. And he's not a terrible shooter, and he's proven to be a very clutch shooter, as you can see from his 39% clutch field goal percentage, which is 6 percentage points higher than Kobe. People said he was scared to take the big one. I just think he was making the right basketball decision. I know that went on ad nauseum for years and years. It just got old. Yeah. He's won or tied more games in the final 7 seconds than Michael Jordan. 5 buzzer beaters and 17 game winners. So,
yeah, and again, I'm taking into account playoffs because that's what matters. And so in this situation, right? And LeBron is sneaky in that regard, in that he is like 3rd all time behind Jordan and Dirk, ironically, as guys who take shots in the last 24 seconds of a game that will either give you the lead or tie the game in regulation or overtime. In the playoffs, he's 3rd. So that puts him out. Now, the reason I didn't have him higher than Kobe, because if you go look at their deal, his sample size is so much smaller. Like, he has not taken that shot very often.
But why?
So when you say that LeBron is,
why?
Well, here's my thing. Because he's making the right basketball play, which I don't think is the right basketball play all the time. I think LeBron James in that scenario if he had a little bit more, like there's got to be some gray area where he's got to meet in the middle. Don't go to the Kobe extreme. I'm with you on that. Okay?
Yeah. You're right. And there's a lot in between. LeBron's almost too unselfish. Kobe is off the charts, absurdly, detrimentally. There's a lot of gray area. You want to slide LeBron and Kobe closer to each other, and then you have the perfect human being, the perfect closer.
The biggest play in the history of his career, by pretty much everybody will look at it and go, is his block. But he's made a lot of game winners in the playoffs. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't negate that. And like I said, if I was going by your criteria, which you never told me about before this, I would have had him one spot higher than you had. So,
and I would not have argued with you because now we're splitting hairs with some really, really good closers here. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to number 3. When you get a chance, guys that are watching and girls that are watching, go look at LeBron's statistics in playoff closeout games where he's facing elimination. Absolutely insane. And now again, he's facing elimination a lot more than most people because he's lost a lot of finals, lost some playoff series. But go look at his numbers in elimination games.
Have you seen his numbers in game 7s?
Yes.
Now, granted, Jordan didn't play in many game 7s, so that's kind of tough. But the point is, he's still all-time leading, just under 35 a game in game 7s.
Yeah, that's big time numbers, man.
Yeah. By the way, my number 4 on my list was Reggie Miller, who we've discussed him, so we can move on. Yeah.
Okay. Reggie Miller or Ray Allen? Better player historically all time, off the top of your head.
Ray Allen.
Agreed.
Reggie Miller.
How many people would think that? I mean, I know you and I are on the same page because I know Reggie Miller was 18-3-3, which so were 700 other people.
Yeah.
But how many people would think that?
Ray Allen made more in all NBA teams. Ray Allen broke his
All-Star
record. Probably more All-Star teams, maybe, I don't know. But you just remember because Reggie did it on the biggest stages, and there's something to be said for that. But there's also something to be said for the fact that his teams were good enough to get to those stages.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
Well, neither one of those guys were great defenders, so we'll leave that side of it out.
No,
not willing defenders either, to say the least. I got Kareem 3. Do you have Kareem? You got to have. Okay, good.
I don't have him, and again, it goes back to
whoa, stop.
It goes back. Will you just hear me out? Okay, it goes back strictly to I'm thinking we have to give this person the ball, and they have the ball for the remaining, 8, 10, 12 seconds of a game, and then they have to go make a play. If you ask me and you base it on what you're saying, obviously the shot that's going to be the most unstoppable in the history of basketball is his skyhook. Okay. So he most certainly should have at least made my 10 somewhere on that. So I will definitely admit a mistake there, but I would not have, even if, based on the criteria, I thought he wouldn't have been higher. Like Tim Duncan being on the list is absurd. But like he would have been somewhere on this list, but he wouldn't have been higher than probably 8, just because here's the problem. He gets double teamed. Okay, fine. I thought that person had to take the last shot.
Even if he gets doubled, he's got to shoot the fucking hook, right? Excuse my language, but I get it. Yeah. Well, he's 7'1". He can pass out of it. In my list. So that's gonna change a lot of crap. Yeah. And he ain't the greatest passer ever, but the dude's tall as hell. No. And I'm thinking 1977, kiss my ass. I can do anything I want, Kareem, right? Running the decade, Kareem, right? Dude,
he made skyhooks from like 18 feet. So like,
and it's like, well, I know you can, but do you need to? Like you're freaking,
right?
You're like Wilt 2.0. Why? Just go yam it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have Kareem here again. That's a factor of the criteria mix-up that you absolutely screwed up. Who's number 3 on your list?
Number 3 on my list was Kevin Durant.
Okay.
Because, again, I'm taking into account getting anywhere he wants to get on the floor and being able to take a shot that nobody else can deal with. The hard part for me here was originally I had Kawhi way up here, right? And then I went back and looked, and again, I'm not taking into account how many games they play and all that, but you go back and you look at some of the shots that Durant has made over his career at the end, And it just looks easier than anybody else other than the guy who's going to be at the top of the list for both of us. I mean, it's just incredible to watch. So, I had Kevin Durant number 3.
Yeah. 2 things come to mind. His Oklahoma City years, I mean, how much of that do you think was Kevin Durant? How much of it was really Nick Collison setting screens?
100%. Yeah, no doubt about it. And then also people staying glued to Serge Ibaka from 20 feet.
I think he's a factor of Nick Collison. I don't know. A lot of people think it's more Durant, but I like Collison.
Yeah.
My God, I hope people can pick up sarcasm. This is a video, so surely.
Well, please do clarify because they did retire his number.
Collison?
Yeah.
Well, why is he retiring? He's just started.
You thought
He's only played 2 decades.
Because he was that good, man.
Yeah. So here's something. This is interesting that we got to talk about, and we'll just use it because obviously KD's coming up on one of my 2, but and you could probably figure out which one he is. But spoiler alert. But the biggest shot of KD's career, I think we can both agree, right? The size up on LeBron, clearly, not even close, right? That's the biggest shot of his career. But it might have been. Well, it was in a final, so. That shot against the Bucks was a fraction of an inch away from being right there with it, man. Just as what the hell did I just see type situation. You know me. I was grabbing kids and throwing them. I was throwing a bicycle through the window. I thought it was a 3-point. I thought it was over. I mean, I was pissed.
Yeah.
And, man, was I glad to see that he had like a size 18 shoe, and it was just a fraction of an inch too close. That would have been probably the second biggest shot of his career, I would assume.
No, I think there were other bigger shots. I mean, I think that shot alone was the biggest one he ever took. I think that deal with LeBron, I know it's the finals and all that. Dude, they won the series 4-1. I mean, like, come on. And the game was tied when he made it, or they were down 1 or whatever. And it was just so demoralizing. And it was just because he was sized up and ISO'd. Not ISO'd, but just like, I'm going to raise up on your ass. You're not even there. But like, if you really break it down, fine. But no. I just think you look at this dude and you go, is there anybody else besides the guy that we're going to talk about that could go get really whatever shot he wanted to get? Now, the thing that separates him is he can do it from 30 feet consistently.
Oh, for sure. Well, 3-level scorer, if there ever was one.
Like 5 levels, really. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, he might be the greatest 3-level scorer,
He's
of
the
all
greatest
time. Yeah. 3-level scorer, greatest 3-level scorer of all time.
Yeah.
And so I guess I haven't heard you mention Larry Bird yet.
Correct.
And you haven't heard me mention Kevin Durant, and we ain't even going to argue about who's number 1. We'll talk about him, of course.
Yeah.
But
there's our flip.
Yeah. There's my KD. The only thing that's shocking is his clutch field goal percentage is worse than Kobe, which was terrible. It's like 13% lower than his career average. It's like really bad, but he gets the easiest looks. And again, just the eye test and just having seen what we've seen, you got to believe that by the time his career is over, that 32.5% is not going to be – there's just no way. He's just too good of a shooter and gets too easy looks for that to stay down there. I think he gets shots off, uncontested, high percentage shots off easier than any player that's ever played basketball.
Yes.
I don't like the way he carries himself in social media and off the court. But from just an observer standpoint, he's special. He daggered LeBron in the duel, and then he's taken 100+ more clutch field goal attempts than Steph. And he's 33. What do I have on here? He's 33.3 points per game on 55% shooting in game 7s, which is LeBron-like. It's big. It's big numbers,
Yeah, it's better actually because of this field goal percentage, and the fact that he's shooting threes at that clip, or mid 40s in that situation too. But he, to me, the whole sensitivity issue, which you brought up just a little while ago, it's really weird to me because normally dudes who are super sensitive,
alpha.
No, it's that this moment would bother them, right?
That's what I mean. Like, what if I miss? Like, dude,
like
LeBron, he doesn't care if he misses, but
early in his career.
But he cares if you tweet about him or something. I never got that, man.
My guy, I had Bird here, and Bird, strictly because there has never. Look, it's tough. I know the guy, that's at number 1 for both of our lists is arguable here. Has there ever been a more FU wired player than Larry Bird? I don't know, man. There's
just one.
That's it.
Well,
that's it.
Maybe 2, but
yeah. Yeah.
One for sure. 1.5.
Yeah.
Kobe is a pretty FU dude. I tell you who else is an FU dude is Russell Westbrook when he's on the court. He's a pretty FU dude too.
He is. Giannis is getting some of that to him as well. Luka is definitely that, by the way. Bird's my number 2 there. That goes.
I can't argue with that. I have Bird too far back. I should have it. And again, on my list, passing's taken into account, which is even more reason Bird should probably be, tied for 4th with LeBron. I don't know, something around there. I just have Kareem on there just because I don't have any question whatsoever that he is always going to get the shot off, and it's always going to be probably a 60% shot, no matter what.
I'm taking into account that you have to get him the ball in
I know, but I mean, it's like, why would he not get the ball? Like, how could you stop him from getting the ball?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, if you sag down off and made the entry pass tough, as opposed to this dude can catch the ball 20 feet from the goal.
Yeah, you can't have Rondo throwing the entry pass. That's for sure, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's tough. That's true. I'll reveal it here. I don't know what else we need to say about this, but
nothing.
We could just hit record. I mean, the greatest that ever did it, the greatest clutch player ever, the greatest non-clutch player ever, the probably top 5 greatest perimeter defenders that ever walked planet Earth, the best offensive player that's ever played basketball, the guy that changed the sport of basketball the second most of any player that ever played the sport, certainly changed the brand of basketball in the NBA more than any player.
Worldwide.
Will obviously had more of an effect on the game of basketball. He changed freaking all the rules.
Right.
And he still has all the records. He made the shot in '89 against the Cavs when he double pumped and hit over Elo. The push off in 2007, which was fair to me because he got pushed off by Reggie Miller for that game. So it's like it balances out, right?
Yeah.
And then not to mention, and I'm taking a dig at Kobe because that's what I do. Not to mention, unlike Kobe, he knew when to pass and shot a similar free throw percentage to Kobe. So. Again, 2 of those rings, 2 of the more memorable plays during those 2 runs were Paxson and Kerr, man.
Yep.
And that's unique. The same thing that LeBron was disparaged about. Jordan did it, and it just happened to work out because this dude's made it. And, Sasha Pavlovich and whoever the hell was taking those shots for LeBron did not make it.
And that's why it's not the right play on LeBron's part.
I would have to look closer.
I
know. I mean, but it's not like he's, dumping it off to, Steven Adams in the dunker spot. I mean, he's still passing it to perimeter players. The coach put those players on the floor for one reason. If LeBron gets doubled, you got to make this damn shot. So you would assume, they had a pretty good
coaches have always made the right decisions.
But their nuts may have shriveled up in the last 3 seconds of a playoff game.
LeBron's coaches, anyhow, that's a statement all in itself. But nonetheless, think about it. Jordan's willing to give those balls up because he's throwing it to 2 of the greatest catch and shoot guys ever. Now, granted, he didn't even throw the ball to Paxson, right? He gave that ball up earlier than all that. But yeah, I mean, you got 2 of the greatest catch and shoot guys. Like, you didn't see him kick it out to Scottie Pippen to ever shoot a mid-range.
Read and react, and he's a genius, and he knew better, right?
And nobody ever better in getting to an 17, 18-foot spot wherever he wanted to, and still having space created to get a decently clean look. Like, you didn't see him take incredibly contested shots. They were contested, but not incredibly contested because his footwork was so good. His ball handling was so good.
Elevation.
His elevation was amazing, all that stuff. So, I mean, this is a no-brainer right here for sure. That's it, guys. That's our list. Top 10, not closers. I'm sorry, not finishers. I've got it labeled finishers, but let's call it closers because I don't want there to be any confusion about the top 10 dunkers because Tim Duncan would not have made that list, nor would Dirk. Hell, nor would a lot of these guys on this list now that I look at it. If that doesn't tell you that 3s are worth more than 2s, then I don't know what does. But anyway, that's our list. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. You're watching this on the Luka Nation Network where you'll find a lot of really in-depth Cajun cardboard content. This will not be the last time we see Jonathan on the show with us. We've already got a list. I mean, what do we have? 10, 12 different list type, draft type style topics. We will never be able to generate content quick enough to catch up with the list that we are compiling. It is going to be special. It's going to be easy. We are
100% going at whatever pace you can keep up with, because I will talk about this forever, and I know you will too. So stay tuned, guys. We'll see Jonathan again. Anything else you want to say? Any last words? Any changes you want to make in your list, or you're pretty set on yours?
I have Kareem. I have Kareem in my list. And then I do also want to clarify to the viewers, whenever he said our list, this is not our list, because the criteria was
different.
Unfortunately. And next time we'll be better, because I'll make sure he knows what the criteria are actually.
Well, I'm gonna cut and paste it right here and then send it to you ahead of time, so we'll have one list. But look, I really think this it's an interesting twist, because we both agreed players would move up or down based on that one simple, can they pass or not? That changes all the lists a lot, man. That really changed both of our lists, and we both agreed on what those different moves would be. So I think it was pretty cool and pretty dynamic. Thank you guys for watching. As always, keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.